Hello, everyone. This is Rob Golfi with Remax The Golfi Team. Welcome to the Golfi Real Estate Show, Niagara Edition, with host Tim Dennis, and we also have Phil Golfi here with us in the house.
All right, so I'm under orders. I got to go to Phil right off the top of the show because he's got some important information for us right off the top. Phil?
I just, it's more of a thank you. I guess we've been doing this show, or you've been doing this show for a long time.
Yeah.
And we have a Hamilton show, we have a Niagara show, and we were talking about this, I think, last week in terms of, you know, we come in here, we do the show every week. You don't know who's listening. You don't know who you're talking to, or you know, who's hanging out at home right now and listening. But, you know, when it does come time for someone who's thinking of buying or selling their home, then, you know, you go in and meet them, and it's like, hey, you know, I've been listening to your show for the last 2 or 3 years, and it's just such a cool experience in terms of, you know, meeting listeners and having them tell our stories back to us and having them highlight certain things that they remember about certain shows. So, you know, being in the radio industry and meeting a listener and you know, you feel like you have this relationship with them, or they have this relationship with you, and you don't necessarily get to talk to them all the time or hear their feedback. But lately, I just feel like every single time I go meet a seller, it's like, yeah, I listen to your show. And then, you know, they'll be asking me questions and they'll interrupt me and be like, yeah, you know, you said that on your show. I remember you saying that on your show. So it's just such a cool experience for us to be a part of, you know, be a part of this radio station, having you share your platform with us. And then, you know, at the beginning, you just don't know who you're talking to. You don't know who's listening. But, you know, we started to see the tide really change. And now we're meeting a lot of sellers who are listeners, who are making their next move. And, you know, I have 2 friends in Grimsby, Helen and Ken, and they've been listening to the show for a number of years now. And they're talking about, you know, it became time to sell. And, you know, they were just talking about who they were going to list with. And they're like, well, you know, we listen to their show every single week. Let's give them a call. And so, you know, they said, Phil, you know, we went with you. We listened to you on the radio, and, you know, we felt most comfortable with you, and we're super happy to work together. So I always find it's super cool to meet listeners, and it's just such a, you know, you don't know who we don't know who we're developing a relationship with, but when, you know, we're meeting listeners and they're sharing their stories with us, and, you know, they listen to us on the radio, it's super fun.
Yeah.
It is one of the great things about this business when that happens, because when I was a listener before I got into the business many years ago, I always used to think of the people that I listened to as friends, and I got to know them a little bit and a little bit about their home and et cetera, et cetera. And it was such a cool experience when I finally got to run into them. And that's what you hope you do when you're in this business. You hope that you're informing people as a friend. You know, you're not talking at them, you're talking with them, and that's part of what
it is funny. Like, you walk in and they know your zodiac sign, because I talk about my zodiac sign.
Yeah,
and then they say, yeah, and sometimes we sit down there and ready to give our presentation and everything. Don't worry, Rob, we got it all. We heard you on the radio. You told us.
Yeah,
we just want to get going. Let's go, and that's it. It's you know what, it is very educational. We which people love, and we try to put some humor in there once in a while, and but yeah, some good stories. Yeah.
I don't feel like we're
once in a while.
Yeah,
I just don't feel like we're cut from the radio cloth. Like, we're not your typical radio, I don't know, DJs, I guess. And you know, we're not the best talkers in the world, and I feel like some people can relate to that. And you know, we're just selling real estate, sharing our stories, and you know, hoping people listen.
It's conversation. I like to think of this as handle it the way you would handle it if you were sitting across somebody at Timmy's having a coffee.
Yeah.
That's the way you handle the conversation, because that's the way you get what you're trying to say across. So let's get into this and talk about something that I'm sure confuses people, or, well, it's unknown to people. What happens when you put in an offer and you're dealing with an offer? What does all that mean to you?
So I've got a story, and I have this house for sale, and so we received an offer conditional on selling another house, and there was also 3 other conditions in there: financing, home inspection, and insurance. So we worked out the deal. We accepted the offer and everything. But then after, they decided, it was during the week of the heavy, heavy rain that we had just a couple weeks ago. Remember, we had a lot of rain that came in, and they saw a little bit of water in the one corner of the crawl space and everything, and they kind of got scared. I guess they're first-time buyers. So anyway, so they decided not to go with the offer. And on there, on the offer, it says if we get another offer, they would have 24 hours to, the buyers would have 24 hours to firm up or let it go. But as they're letting it go, I received another offer. And the second offer was also conditional on selling a house. So the second offer, people thought we were bumping the first offer. Really, we weren't. They were just, walking away from it. And the sellers of the house did rectify what the problem was with the waters in the crawl space that was happening. So that's been fixed. But so the second offer comes in, and we negotiate. We got it accepted, and about 3-4 days later, he calls and says, "You know what, Rob? I don't think the financing is going to work out through with this one," and that was conditional sale. Then we get a third offer coming in, and that's happening right now, and it's conditional on just financing and home inspection, and so I'm hoping that comes through. But it's funny though, we had this house listed at $750, and for like last year, we weren't getting any action on it, but I did not want to tell him to reduce it last year because I knew he wasn't going to get any offers. But as soon as we were into January, probably by the 8th of January, I said, okay, I know the market's going to pick up. Let's put it at 720. He wanted to put it at 700. I said no, because I knew there's some people going to want some negotiating room there. And so we did end up selling it for about $700,000. And he couldn't believe it. He said, "Wow, what a difference!" And I said, "I didn't want to have you reduce to 720 or even 700 last year because you weren't going to get an offer anyway. It's just the way the market was. The last quarter of 2023 was brutal. It was tough." And that's why a lot of the people towards the end of the year in December, I would say, just wait till January, February to get your house on the market. It'll be, you'll do a lot better. But anyway, dealing with offers is like one after another. It was three different ones at 3 different times, and all the numbers were pretty close to the same.
Another perfect example, or another example of this, is we had a bungalow for sale on Hamilton Mountain, and this property was listed last year, $839,000. And similar thing, they had offers conditional on sale of property that fell apart. It was just slow. They were on the market for over, I think, 70 days last year and didn't sell.
Yeah.
And we took the property off the market and came up at the beginning of this week. Exact same price, $839,000. And it's, like I said, it's an 1,800 square foot, 2-bedroom bungalow. This property sold in one day for $855,000.
See that?
So it's the exact same property. They didn't paint it, they didn't update it, they didn't change anything. They listed at the exact same price. And someone came in and said, "I want this property right now, and I'll overpay for it if you can look at my offer tonight," because they were afraid of being in competition. And firm offer, signed, accepted, sealed, delivered, and away you go. So if there's any indication in terms of where our market's at, I always talk about that example with sellers today in comparison to last year, where properties that sat on the market last year for a longer period of time, didn't get any action, didn't sell. But there's one perfect example of a property that came back up and then I'll add this. I think this period right now, if you're a seller listening, deciding if you're going to sell or not, I feel like we have a 4 to 8 week period where the market's going to be really good for sellers.
Yeah.
Where there's going to be low inventory. You're going to be, you're going to come up. You're going to be one of the only houses in your neighborhood for sale, and you're going to be able to get the best buyers and be the most attractive listing for that period of time. And when the spring comes, when the actual spring comes, when we get later in, beginning of summer, there's going to be a lot more inventory coming up, because everybody thinks that, I have to have green grass and I have to have flowers in the garden and I have to have the pool open to be able to get the most amount of money for their house, where I keep on saying we don't know how long this window is going to last, but it happens every single year.
Yeah.
It's going to be like a 4 to 6 to 7 week window where people are going to do really well. And there's going to be people that come up for sale in the summer that are going to expect to do well, and they're not going to do as well as the people that sold at the beginning of, February, March, April.
Let's talk about a story that was in the news this week. And we all talk every week about the need for housing, People are building homes, or are they building homes? Well, there was a story this week about somebody who is building some homes, about 4,000 of them, around their head office, which would be the big company Leon's, which actually got their start in Welland, believe it or not. The original Leon's was in Welland, but now their head office, they say they're going to build 4,000 homes. Is this something that's going to help, Rob, or is this, in your view, public relations?
I think they just want to get in and try to help the crisis, and they're sitting on a property, excuse me, plot of land that can be rezoned to residential, and they're going to take advantage of it. I mean, they probably did enough research. They've got the money to do the research, and they probably aligned themselves up with some developers or builders to rezone and build these properties. And I think they're just, they're taking advantage of the of because there is a crisis, and they know we need housing, and they got the land to do it, and they've got the money to support it. So, I mean, what else? I mean, it's gonna work out, and they'll probably, and the government needs to drop interest rates to get these things going, and they probably will, and they'll be one of the builders, and who knows, they may get into buying other plots of land.
Bingo. I mean, it's another layer to their business, right? You got to think about these big box stores. They're not just furniture companies. They're real estate companies. They own a lot of real estate. Why wouldn't they? There's a demand for housing. If they have property that can be converted into residential, and you basically build yourself your own customer base where you're gonna build around your stores. But the other thing is like, you don't think the high end executives from Loblaws or from IKEA or those other big box stores are looking at this article and saying, well, that might be a good idea. How do we get involved in that? I just think that and we see we see it changing. Like, we saw it happen with the office spaces where there was all these vacancies in terms of office spaces that were being converted over to condos. We're going to start seeing it with the big box stores. They're just aren't needed as much as they were before. And it's, how do these stores what are we going to do with the real estate that they have, and are we going to convert it over to residential? So it's
interesting because they've got 40 acres around their head office in Toronto that has nothing on it, so they just have to get it rezoned. And this is a company that owns, as you say, big box stores, Leon's. They also own the Brick, and a bunch of others. And you got to know that the folks at Loblaws are going, they're getting a lot of good publicity out of this. Maybe we could get in on this kind of thing.
Well, even think about like the Hudson Bay Company. They sold a few years ago, and the the developer that bought them did not buy them for the clothing company. They bought them for the real estate. So that's, that's another play that, where he looks at it as a real estate play, and who knows what's going to happen with, the Hudson's, those stores.
Well,
right?
look at Yorkdale Mall. Aren't they thinking of putting a bunch of towers around that mall?
Limebridge Mall in Hamilton. It's Cadillac Fairview has this grand plan of making like a little metro hub with transit and condos, and they want to get the hockey arena. So that's
happening all over the States. A lot of malls are rezoning themselves and rebuilding with housing, residential all around what used to be the mall. There'll still be a little bit there, but they're building all kinds of stuff around them, and they're thinking outside the box store.
Oh yeah, Penn Center. You don't think they're looking at it? And then what about the outlet mall in Lundy's Lane in Niagara Falls? That outlet mall died when they opened up Glendale Avenue. That outlet mall there on Glendale. So guaranteed that I'm sure there's a lot of negotiating and things happening that we don't know about with these parcels of land that there's malls and stuff on.
There was a story this week about a home in Mississauga. It's funny, 10, 15 years ago, if I talked about a home selling for $1 million, I would have said, wow, it must be a huge home. Now you hear a headline of a story or some sort of a story about a home selling for $1 million. You think, that's pretty natural. So it sold for just under $1 million, but had a ton of offers on. What happened in this story, Rob?
Oh, Phil's good at explaining this story. I'm going to pass it on to him. This is good.
So, yeah, I mean, this caught the attention of our entire industry. I saw it posted all over social media. A lot of people posting the 85 offers. The market's picking up. You know, it almost created this kind of FOMO, fear of missing out, this anxious style of selling. So this realtor in Mississauga, I believe it was a townhouse, right?
Yeah.
Put a townhouse up for sale for $749,000 in effort to create a competitive offer situation. He ended up getting 85 offers, and the property sold for just under $1 million. And you know, a part of me, my first reaction was like, okay, you know, you underpriced the house by, you know, $250,000. It's not an indication of where we are as a market, right? And then another thought came into my head. I said, well, if they priced it at $750,000 and only got 5 offers, well, I mean, it would show that we're not in a great market. So he went on to say that 80% of the offers, so 80% of the 85 offers received were not even close to the final sale price of $1 million.
They weren't good. 80% of the offers were not good. Great, not good.
So, and you know, I was following the story on social media because, you know, we were getting notifications and so on. And a part of me was like, okay, it must have just been absolutely chaos. Like to generate 85 offers, you must have had over 250 showings.
Easily.
It was like a week-long open house, people parking on the street, trying to get in, line up at the front door. Like
chaos.
It would have been complete chaos. So ultimately, you know, the seller, I'm assuming, got, you know, what they were looking for. The article went on to say that the property was probably worth somewhere in the $930,000 to $950,000 range. And they ended up getting their $1 million final sale price, which is amazing. Now, this is a strategy that we saw early in 2022, where people would post, you know, a property at or under market value just to generate this style of offer and this style of competition. But I truly think, in terms of, he went about the wrong way in terms of doing it. And I think there's a way to do it and there's a strategy to do it, but I just wouldn't have gone this low in comparison to what he could have gone. And I think he would have saved a lot of people time and aggravation and a
lot of mistakes could happen with the 85 offers.
For sure.
Believe me,
back and forth.
There could be something Oh, for sure. You are setting yourself up for some problems.
Yeah. So I think, you know, he would have got the same result even if he listed it at 850, and he would have, you know, he probably would have generated 20 plus offers. But I think the 80% of the offers that came in is just, it's a waste of back and forth. It's a waste of inquiries. It's hard to manage and understand for the average, you know, person. And you know, but ultimately, like I said, he got his sellers, you know, what he wanted. I just think, you know, real estate has this kind of, you know, especially when you get into these multiple offer situations, it has a black cloud all over it already, right? And people do not like the process. It's a very frustrating process to go through as an agent, and a very frustrating process to go through as a buyer. And when you see this, it's like come on, right? It's just a little bit disappointing. I think he could have done a better job in terms of pricing the home, and to generate this situation and still get the result. And I say that because the property sold back in 2017 near the asking price of what they asked. The property sold somewhere in the mid 700 range, and he listed it for that amount today.
Yeah. The one thing it is saying to us is that the people are starting to look.
Bingo. Yeah,
like,
for sure.
You know what? And I think weather and market dynamics is a factor. I think the pandemic related hesitation, people are starting to come out. And market response to, you know, softening. People know that the prices have softened up, but now, like, it is gonna pick up. Like, things are picking up. We don't know how far. Like, that house, I was talking to a Mississauga agent. He says that house is worth $950,000. That sold for $1 million. It was worth $950,000. So they probably got $30,000 to $40,000 more than what the value was. And Phil's right. You know, why put it at $750 versus $850 and
but what it does tell you is if you're a seller in that neighborhood and you're thinking of selling, you can look at that and say, well, you know, there's 84 other people that are looking right now that are willing to put in an offer. Not that it's 80% of them weren't even close to the final sale price. But sure, you only need one buyer when it comes down to it when you're selling your house. There's still 20% of the buyers from those offer pool that are still out there looking to make an offer and buy a house. So, I mean, in terms of, you know, you take that for what it's worth. And that's what we're going through in our market right now. I'm not going to go out here and say, oh, multiple offers and, you know, bidding wars are back. But it's a sign of where our market is trending and where it's going. And I think it's a really, really good sign. If you've been waiting for people who, or if you're a seller that maybe didn't sell last year or is waiting for the market to bounce back to get a certain number, I think it's time to start paying attention because this is, you know, I think things are trending upwards toward the spring market. And once you add in that interest rate dropping, it's just going to only continue to heat up our market in terms of where we're going.
I have a question for both of you, and this was just a personal observation I had over the last couple of weeks. A friend of mine had a place for sale down in the Fort Erie area, and it was up for sale, and it was for sale, and it was for sale. It was like a lot of things over the past year. You know, there wasn't a lot of movement on it. Finally got an offer last week that was $100,000 under the asking price. Does that stuff happen a lot? What the heck is the agent who's putting that offer in thinking?
So chances are the agent that has it listed, okay, the agent that brought the offer in called the agent that has it listed. And he probably questioned him, say, hey, listen, how flexible is your guy? How, you know, like what kind of number is he looking at? And he probably said, listen, bring it in and see what happens. And that's probably what he did. So it just depends on the agent. But I get a lot of calls on our listings, and the agent calls me up and says, Rob, like how flexible are they? You know, my clients are pre-approved. I says, well, if your clients are pre-approved, look for the pre-approved, look for the prices in that range. But this house, I tell them it's worth this much. And sometimes if I know that we're overpriced, my client knows, the seller knows it's overpriced. He just says he's just waiting for somebody to bring an offer in. I'll just say, hey, bring an offer in, and we'll entertain it, and we'll see where it lands. And I don't tell them, you know, what number we're looking at. I don't tell them, you know, bring me whatever. I just say, bring it in, and let's see how we can go back and forth with this thing, and maybe we can come to an agreement. But that $100,000 less, yeah, sometimes they do come in without talking to the agent, which is not good. But most good realtors, they'll call and say, hey, listen, I got a client that's serious. He wants your place. But he's looking at coming in at a low number. How flexible? And if the agent says bring it in, that means there's flexibility. If the agent says don't bother wasting your time, then he knows.
The worst thing that can happen too is, and I've seen this happen before, is you just automatically assume that they're not going to take an offer for $100,000 less. And there's a lot of instances out there, Tim, where people do, right?
Yeah.
Like people do. And so you don't want to be the one who's sitting at home and then all of a sudden you're eyeing this property down. You like it, but you just feel like it's overpriced, so you don't go see it, but you're still following it and you're waiting for them to drop your price. And then all of a sudden it sells.
And then
you go, I would have paid that.
Yeah.
Or I would have paid more than that.
Happens all the time.
It happens all the time. And I mean, everyone always says that after, right? Everyone always says, oh, I would have paid that. But you know, and that's what I say is it doesn't hurt to submit it, right? It does, and I, you know, Tim, I've submitted lowball offers, but I'll create a case behind it, and I'll say you guys are overpriced, and I'll provide the data and analytics and comparables behind it why I think they're overpriced. But if you're just going to throw around lowball offers, you're going to lose a lot of respect from your real estate partner, you know, colleagues, and we're going to say, well, you know, get the heck out of here, like this is a joke. But if you're gonna say, well, you know, you've been on the market for 80 days, 120 days. other properties have been selling around you for less than what you're asking. This is probably what it's worth. Here's my offer. So there's a right way to do it. There's a wrong way to do it. But for your original question, we do see it. And guess what? We've seen properties sell for, hundreds of thousands less than the asking price, especially in the luxury real estate range.
Earlier in the show, we talked about a company that was looking to build homes around their head office and putting up a whole point talking about Leon's. But there's a story in the news this week about the federal government, the housing minister, talking about post-secondary institutions, universities and colleges that should be able to apply for low-interest loans to build student housing. Is this a part of the housing answer? Is this needed in Canada right now, gentlemen?
Well, it's the students that are coming from other countries are the ones that are eventually buying the houses in this country. I think they should do low interest loans on regular residential homes, not just for. And I think this is just for student rentals. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Yeah,
they want to build dorms.
They probably need them, and I get it, but why not offer that to buyers that are wanting to buy, let's say a subdivision of townhouses or subdivisions that detached, like give them a 5-year guaranteed 5-year low interest loan. The government do that, and so that people can afford it. To a certain degree, like we don't want them to get a 2% mortgage and then it goes up to 6% like we had. We got to give them something that's better than what the market is. And if there is a change, it's not a significant change in interest rates. And like if they're willing to do that, I mean, like the government, like it's funny. Like I can argue with the government. They're always giving money away, doing this, doing everything else that doesn't really help the Canadian people.
Yeah.
Which, you know what I mean? Like it's like
here's the problem. So these universities, everyone forgets that these universities are businesses. They want to make the most amount of money that they can. And how they make this money is enrollment. So if you look at these Canadian universities, their enrollments have continued to grow rapidly.
Yeah.
New buildings going up, science this, business build But they're not building the housing around the universities to be able to support the amount of new enrollments that they're having. They're opening it up. Yeah. So what happens is they need to lean on the landlords, right? They need to
build these fourplexes, build rooming houses.
Anybody who has a kid that's going to university today and is looking for housing, they know how much of a struggle it is right now. And this is where, the landlord comes in and says, okay, well, I'm going to go buy a student house and make it, beneficial to students and put locks on doors and so on and everything you would do on a student house. But then we're losing these landlords, right? Nobody wants to be a landlord anymore because the laws and rules and regulations around being a landlord are difficult. On top of that, it's really hard to get financing on a student rental property. Really hard. So now you have all these landlords exiting the space. And then these universities who need
accepting students, and there's no space for them.
And now they're turning to the university and saying, well, how can you have this enrollment of all these new students that are coming into your university? What have you done for housing? And often the universities rely on third-party people to develop the housing around the universities, and it's not there to support it.
Think of what's going to happen to the neighborhoods around, say, like Niagara College or Brock University. You put up more student housing. All of those townhouses and semis that are all student housing now could have an effect on that too, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. They need the housing. There's no doubt about it, because sometimes these students they can't find a place, then they get stuck, and they're living in probably in basements. Yeah. Like the one thing is, what happens is, if you buy a student rental and every door in the house has got locks on it, the appraiser goes in and appraises it. He has to notify the lender saying, hey, this is not a regular residential house. This is a student rental. So the bank will say, nope, we're not going to finance you on this. So a lot of times, this is what sometimes the buyers and the sellers do. They take all the locks off the doors and just put regular doorknobs on there. They go in for the appraisal. So boom, they appraise it at the appraisal amount. Once the appraiser leaves, the locks go back on.
Yeah,
I mean, like the things you have to do to get a deal
jump
done.
through hoops.
And that's what happens a lot because like what's the difference whether it's got locks on the door or not? It's still real estate.
Yeah.
We were talking about a story that was in the news this week about how expensive it is to rent in certain parts of the country and how rental affordability was pretty grim across the country, particularly in places like the GTA. And now a lot of landlords are finding that people just can't pay their rent, let alone won't, but they can't. And they're going into arrears. What's happening here? I mean, you also, besides being in real estate, you're also landlords.
Yes, I'm finding that the people are struggling out there. The jobs, maybe they're losing their jobs. Maybe they're not. Like today, people quit their jobs first and then start looking. They don't do it the other way. So, but
just the cost of living.
It is expensive. And they're hearing a lot of the stuff on the news saying, you can get away not paying your rent for a year and all that kind of stuff. But they don't realize some landlords will chase you for it, and it could affect your record. I mean, you get a collection agency after you, it's on your record, and that collection agency it'll be there forever. So if you're a tenant and you're planning on not paying, they'll come after you. But it is getting expensive out there. There's no doubt, and we're seeing it. And now, I'll tell you, a lot of the areas, like St. Catharines, Niagara Falls, Welland, all these, where houses are 80 years old, 100 years old. It's not the first place where people move to. It's usually where immigrants and people, people starting out move to. A lot of those places got cleaned up with buyers coming from the GTA. They bought them. They fixed the houses up. So all these people that were living in these low-income areas, now they got better. So those people, where did they get pushed to? Because they were renting and they got pushed someplace else. So they end up going to a place where say, okay, well, I was used to paying, $900 a month rent, $800. Now they're going to $1,200 to $1,500 a month.
Or they have to go to an apartment.
Yeah, but sometimes it catches up to them. That extra money that you're paying by the 6th, 8th month, you're like, I can't make it anymore. It's like, how you're paddling in the water and then you're tired out and then you're just drowned. And that's what's happening to people. People are forced to go into these higher rental areas, and they have no choice because they either got moved out or whatever from the current one, and they can't afford to pay it.
Well, let's think about it from the landlord perspective, right? So, taxes are going up everywhere. Property taxes are going up everywhere. 70% of mortgages are renewing in the next 12 to 18 months, right? So interest rates have gone up. We've seen hydro bills increase. Oh. So now the landlord who wouldn't have necessarily, and there's a lot of landlords out there who are cash flowing and making money on their investment, who wouldn't have necessarily raised their rent. But when you add in all these things, the mortgage interest, the taxes, etc., well, now they're going to their tenant and saying, your rent's being increased by 2.5% or whatever the CPI index is, which you're allowed to, under government in terms of increase the rents every year. So all these other increases trickle down the chain and fall on that renter. And that's why we're going to see these rents start to increase. And that's why the arrears have increased, right? Those are incurred costs that are being pushed to the tenant right now. And that's what's going on. It's just the landlord's incurred more costs and therefore the rents have to go up.
But income hasn't jumped as much as the rental or even the mortgages or even the house prices.
Right. And so for this person who's might be renting a basement apartment or an entire house, is going to have to say, well, am I able to afford this, or should I move to an apartment, or should I move to a smaller space that's more affordable? And it just sucks that people are being pushed out of spaces that they once could afford and were comfortable in,
and they had a full detached house. Now they're going into an apartment,
in a basement apartment, and it's just down the chain you go. So it's just difficult right now and it's something that we see every single day, and we're the ones who are working with these people, just trying to help them find, spots and housing, and we have a leasing department on our team. So we work with a lot of landlords and tenants, and we hear about a lot of these stories, and it's just difficult right now for everyone.
I want to talk about a story that really puts all of this into perspective when you talk about how much it costs to buy a house these days. Somebody did some looking into how much it costs to buy a single family home 10 years ago as opposed to last year. So basically what it was like in 2013 and what it's like in 2023. And it really varies across the country how much they've gone up. When you saw this as real estate people, Phil and Rob, what did you take from it, that the way things have changed over a decade?
Well, I'm going to tell you, house prices are going up more rapidly than it did years prior, like during the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, and early 2000s. So just to give you a perspective, and you've got this in front of you right now, Tim, I printed out the 10-year stats.
Yep.
So look at this. 2016. Okay, I'm looking at the Niagara Falls one. 2016.
Yep.
Average sale price was let's say it was 324,500. 1,976 sales. Okay. 2017. 5 years later. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We get another boom. There was a boom in 2016. We get another boom in 2021. 1,932 sales. Just almost similar, like not similar to the 2016. But look at, that's a 5-year increase. Now, if you look, my prediction, even before I printed this, in 2026, so that's 5 years from, so 2000, so you go from 2022, 23, 24, 25, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. In 2026, I predict another boom, real estate boom. So it used to be a lot shorter because time was slower. Real estate booms are happening almost every 5 to 6 years because time is faster. Everything is moving faster. Okay. Technology.
That sounded like a science fiction movie. Time is moving slower. Well, Captain Kirk.
It's just more rapid.
Yeah, it's
just immigration is rapid. People are moving more rapidly. Housing's more in demand, and there's less of it.
I mean, 2013 to 2010, I was looking at the stats in the Niagara region. The 10-year, the prices increased by 174%, right?
Yeah.
That to me was amazing, given that it's one of the highest in the country. You've got places like Regina that only went up 6%. So it's kind of fascinating that the prices are continuing to go up, but Niagara seems to be benefiting from prices going up a lot over a 10-year period.
It's just the population growth is happening right here. It's happening right here.
And Niagara is still affordable in comparison to a lot of the other municipalities. We always say it. It's that drive until you can afford mentality where you're attracting a lot of, you're attracting your first-time home buyer, you're attracting your investor, you're attracting your downsizer who wants something that's more affordable, that's moving, and so there's a large buyer pool for that market, and it's driving up the price. And even talking about how much Niagara's gone up in price. All these other communities, the GTA still looks at Niagara as an affordable place to go and buy real estate, whether they're buying their first property or their 6th or 7th. It's where a lot of people want to go and buy. So it's just the demand continues to grow, and it's going to continue to drive up pricing until it hits that plateau where people find it unattractive. And guess what? They'll go find another place to buy. That's when you start to see Windsor start to take off, and
Windsor's taken off now quite a bit.
And then you start, and then when Windsor becomes, it hits that threshold, then maybe you go see the North Bays of the world and the Sault Ste. Marie's of the world start to get a little bit more attention. But that's where people go. They're going to go to where it's affordable. And in the past 10 years, that's been Niagara. It's been the hotspot. It's been the top of every single real estate list, investor list, in terms of one of the best places to buy real estate.
Well, the one thing is the change in how what people work, because now a lot of people do work out of their house.
Yeah.
I mean, it's going back to the work spot office, but there is a lot of companies still allowing their employees work out of their house. So they'll say, hey, let's move someplace we can afford the house. I'm getting the salary based on in Toronto, and they're living in Niagara, and so they're actually doing a lot better than anybody else is.
Well, yeah, instead of living in an apartment or a small little townhouse, they get the big 2-story detached house, backyard, pool, and their wages aren't going to decrease or change, and they're still making that nice wage, and in a way you go. And even if you have to get into the office once or twice a week, even from
the drive is not bad.
It's not as bad as it used to be, and hopefully we get that GO train, that all day go down to Niagara, and I think it'll be more popular for people that who are working remotely or working hybrid can get in and out of the city a little bit quicker.
That's a good point. Are you still hearing from people who are saying, I'm working from home, so it's changing my view of where I need a home, how big a home I need, that kind of thing? Now, 3 years ago, that was the top of everybody's conversation. Not as many people have gone back to the office as you might have thought. There's still a lot of people working from home, right?
Well, yeah, they're fighting. Companies are having a hard time getting people to come back, and they don't know. Some of them are saying, if you don't come back, you lose your job. This is the way it is. And so those people are looking for other remote jobs to work out of their house because they got used to it, and that's what they want. And sometimes those people, they prefer working late at night versus getting up in the morning, working 8 hours in the morning. They'd rather work, from 8 o'clock at night till 3 in the morning. Everybody has a different time clock. And so they prefer to do when they can do it versus what the owner of the company wants to do it. But I truly feel that just the way population growth is happening in Canada, especially in Southern Ontario, and I'll tell you, Tim, take a look at each area that I showed you. Look at 2016. 2020, I don't have my glasses on, but look at that, and you calculate every 5 years. It used to be every 10 years. I used to say houses double, but every 5 years there's a boom. And so, it's crazy. Like 16 was the last one, 2021. And the next one, I predict 2026.
Okay, I've got it marked down here in my calendar. I just put it into my phone. So
cash out then.
And when we talk on the air that week, I'll say, so listen.
There you go. You said this. You said this. Yeah.
How can people talk to you and ask questions and get their questions answered, Rob and Phil?
Yeah, they can go to send an email at questions@golfiteam.com, questions@golfiteam.com, or they can give us a call at 905-641-0308. We would appreciate if you give us a call. We will do a home evaluation, no obligation, no pressure at all. Don't hesitate to give us a call. I have input on all the valuations myself. And
we're also on that beautiful app now called X that everyone loves. So we get a lot of tweets at us and about the show. People messaging us at Rob Golfi on Twitter, or X, formerly known as Twitter, and so people, we interact with a lot of people on X as well.
And you can listen to other episodes of this show wherever you get your podcasts, on YouTube or iTunes or Spotify, wherever you get them. Just search out the Golfi Real Estate Show, and we are there. And we will be back here same time next week. And Rob and Phil, thanks for this, and we'll talk to you on the next edition.
Thank you.